What? At the dinner, yeah. Yeah. What about, do we know Narrowly on page 4? Oh. If we want to try Narrowly on page 4, and maybe we'll get one or two more people when we sing it. Nearly, nearly, nearly dakik B'Chanukah neri adlik B'Chanukah neri yair B'Chanukah shirim ashir B'Chanukah neri yair B'Chanukah shirim ashir. Maybe the song under it, Banu Choshech Legarish. Banu Choshech Legarish, Beyadenu or va'esh, Kol echad hu or katan, Vechulanu or eitan, Surah Choshech al ashchor, Surah mipnei ha'or, Surah Choshech al ashchor, Surah mipnei ha'or. We'll get started. Shabbat Shalom and Chodesh Tov and Chag Chanukah Sameach. We start Mincha in Lev Shalom on page 214, in the Slim Shalom on 226, and in the Sim Shalom on 558. On 170 in the other Slim Shalom. Great. Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, Odi Halelucha Sela, Ashrei Am Shekacha Lo, Ashrei Am Shadonai Elohav, Tehillah LeDavid, Armim Chalei LaMelech, V'Vachashim Chalei LaLev. Tehillah Adonai Daber Pi, V'Yivarech Kol Basar Shem Kod Shel Olam Va'ed, V'Anachnu Nevarech Yah, Me'atav V'Yad Olam Hallelujah, Uva L'Tzion Goel. Page 216, 227, and 560. ואתה קדוש יושב תהילות ישראל וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך על הארץ כבודו מקבלים תמידיהם. ותישאני רוח ואשמע אחרי קול רעש גדול ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Baruch HaGever, ba-da-da-da, Asher Yiftach Badonai, ba-da-da-da, V'hayadonai Miftacho, ay, 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 B'tchu Vadonai, ba-da-da-da, Adeyad, ba-da-da-da, Ki beyadonai, Tzur olamim, Ve'yiftechu b'cha, ba-da-da-da, Yodei Shemecha, ba-da-da-da, Ki lo azavta dorshecha, Adonai, Adonai, Chafetz leman tzidko, Yagdil Torah ve'yadir. Let's see. Yeah. Very close, very close. Let's go back to page 215 in the Lev Shalem and do a little Malchutcha singing while we wait. Malchutcha, Malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha, bechol dor vador. 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 Okay. So who's our laner for today? It's Marshall, right? Marshall. So we'll have y'all. Let's wait for our friends from Zoom that we're going to have Marshall give us a blessing, the bless of the Hebrew Torah, and chant for us on the Kolash. So just to repeat what Rabbi Cantor Chorny said, we are going to have Marshall chant the Lasok B'divrei Torah, or recite the Lasok B'divrei Torah blessing, and then chant the Torah reading from the Chumash. We are very close to a minyan, one person away. So in the meantime, this is how we will get our Torah reading for Mincha. Thank you so much. If you want to follow along, page 274 in Eitz Chaim.
On the back of the weekly.
Oh, it's also 274 in Eitz Chaim. Yeah. Oh, that is weird. That's what I thought. That's why I thought you were saying that. Yeah. That's an odd coincidence. Let's see. Oh. We have.
Oh, how funny.
Yeah.
Same page.
Do you want this? Oh, yeah. Here, and I can also bring you. Do you? Okay. Do you have last up? In here, maybe? Last up,
I know. Okay, I'll start with La'asok b'divrei Torah, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'tzatav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And I'll be reading what would be the first three aliyot for this coming week, and I'll tell you where the breaks are. For the first aliyah, Vayigash elav Yehuda vayomer bi Adoni Yidaber na avdecha davar biosnei Adoni v'yal yichar apecha be'avdecha ki chamocha kifaraho Adoni sha'al et avadav lehemor hayesh lachem av oach va'nomer al Adoni yesh lanu av zaken v'yeled zekunim katan V'achiv made vayivaterhu levado le'imo ve'aviv ahevaho. And that which would be the second aliyah for Shabbat afternoon. V'atomer elavadecha horiduhu elai v'yasima eini alav v'anomer eladonihi lo yuchal hanar lazov et aviv v'yazav et aviv amehet. Vatomer elavadecha im lo yered. Achichem hakaton itchem lo tosifun lerot panai. Vayhi ki alinu labdecha avi. Vanaged lo et divrei Adoni. And that which would be the third aliyah. Vayomer Avinu shuvu shivru lanu miyat ochel. Vanomer lo nuchal laredet im yesh achinu akaton itanu v'yaradnu ki lo nuchal lirot pnei ha'ish v'achinu hakaton einenu itanu. Vayomer abdecha avi eleinu atem yidatem ki shenayim yoledale ishtihi. Vayetzeo echad meiti vaomar ach tarov toraf v'lo re'iti vadhena ukachtem gam et zeh me'im panai v'karahu ason v'horatem et sevati b'ra'a she'ola v'ata kvo'i alavdecha avi v'hana'ar inenu itanu v'nafsho kishura v'nafsho.
Is there anybody who is anticipating an Omale being said this particular week for their family? We still not talking in. We'll go right to the whispered check out about it.
Did Wednesday O'Malley's during?
I think there's a reason I'm not to say Omale right now. I don't think we have time. We don't do often. I think there's a reason why we didn't say So we are going to move now to the whispered Mincha Amidah, which can be found in the Lev Shalem on page 223, in the Slim Shalom on 234, and in the Sima Shalom on 574. And we remember to insert the Ya'aleh V'Yavo for Rosh Chodesh and the Al Hanisim for Hanukkah, which I know in the Lev Shalem is on page 430. Oh, and also on page 238 and 582. So we rise for the Amidah. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמרו אמן. יאי נה 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 נה, יאי נה 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 נה, יאי נה 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 נה, יאי נה 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 נה, יאי נה 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 נה, יאי נה 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 נה, יאי נה 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 נה, יאי נה 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 נה, עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמרו amen. Alenu, page 231, 248, and 598. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה השמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומשה ביקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, ידעת היום והשבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת, אין עוד. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 232 in Lev Shalem, 249 in Slim Shalom, and 600 in Sim Shalom. Yit Gadal ve'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divra kirute, be'amlich malchute, be'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv ve'imru, amen. Yehe Shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam ume omayam. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה באמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru. Amen. All right. So I believe we will now be, you're invited to help yourself to the food, and in a few minutes, we'll do some learning together. And we'll be back in a few minutes for the teaching on here shortly. Grab a snack if you have anything you want to eat. Something about my
I'll take a look, yeah. If it's interesting, I'll stay.
Oh, no pressure.
I'm always interested. Yeah. Yes, I'll stay. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna do it over there. We'll make room for people.
Well, just isn't until the 4th of January, so I guess.
I know, we're not, I'm doing this so that they can figure it out.
You know,
Bringing in towels.
I figured, I got it down to where it's 4 hours of so it takes away all my. I think it was, I've had it when I had here. I got rid of it about 3 years ago. So
Oh, yeah, it's all ever.
Well, I looked up the foods on Google that cause hives, and I threw them out. It's a ruined, it's what do you call it? What do you call it?
The only way you know because it's about your
No, well, I have had some you cured me with the last time, but it's not, it's working, or it's not working right out. No, I'm not using the same man. It's not. I must have seen it. She told me. Yeah, well, she didn't tell me. Did you check the door out? They do, right?
Oh, yeah, I wish I was, earlier.
It's no fun.
But I very fast.
I'm glad that you're here now.
Negyed láttam el, Barcelona, Osvodosnak még.
Oh, no. I'm glad.
Yeah. When we are
How are
going
you,
to
Bella?
What?
Come over to my house for lunch and dinner sometime. I'm sure I'll stop. That would be okay? Are you okay with dogs?
It's a little slower to get ready for pizza, but I like it to stay hot.
Yeah.
Did you see that he started calls?
It was definitely during falls, and he doesn't like it. He doesn't like it when it's out.
Months ago.
For like aligning, when we like.
Ellie wanted to tell her why you're so like handy and like.
Signs for keys later, but it's up to you.
We'll see how many times.
Sure, yeah, and then let's get it there. Hopefully we can find them.
I don't know those things. I've got all other things about museum.
No, there's a lot missing. This is just like a taste of.
Yeah, but the stuff that they do.
Oh, no.
What did I say?
I've known twice, but she was very, very. Oh my gosh, it was all from your favorite. we gonna sing Ocho Candelitas?
If we want to, when we like.
I had no idea that she wrote that in '83. I thought it was still like '83. '83. Yeah. I was looking up. I was like, I wanted to found a history of the song because I read the history of the song. It's not authentic. It's just how the
Alan gave us tickets one year to Pop Concert concert at Disney Hall. Do you remember doing that?
That's with the cosmetics?
Yeah.
And it was very fun.
They are very good.
Thank you very much for those tickets, by the way. It was a wonderful concert. I'm sad you weren't able to. I'm really happy to be able to take those tickets off of you. Yeah.
Cosmetics still, do they still perform or?
No.
Okay.
I love them.
I'm a big cosmetics fan. So,
Really?
yeah. A few, like 4 or 5 years ago, I went to Pizza Film President's concert. They had the singer.
So are you sitting there, right?
No, you can take that seat. I'm gonna bring another chair. We stole one. Another chair.
It's very, it's tough to make a living that way after COVID and everything else like that, so. Then they've gone on to everything.
And I mean, just like niche cosmetics.
Maybe you could do that when you're in your 20s. Maybe not so much. And with kids.
We'll just put this here for people.
I didn't. No.
Alvin, I don't want it to be made known, but I have expertise in davening the silent Amida and reading the Torah without using a scroll. Don't tell anybody.
I won't, but boy, you are really good.
Did you enjoy my silent davening last week?
It was superb. I've never heard anything like it.
I should start saying that. My Hebrew isn't that good, but I can do the silent Amida pretty well. I should lead it one day.
We were also short last week.
Oh. Finally.
Yes, I'm sure.
Some people didn't pay attention, they think it's 4:30. Yeah, but it's not 4:30.
You know, it's just,
But announcing.
it's a tear from,
Yeah,
it's four.
no, but they have to say the end of services and.
People that come here and then they get home and they're not really inclined to come back here at 4 if they're watching.
Yeah, no, I know, it's, yeah, I was at the wine stocks tonight.
Yeah.
So I was like,
And I was, you know, I had my thing on and I wasn't going to come.
Just piano, right?
But then I just said,
Who's your
okay,
teacher?
you know, I really want to do it. I said, oh, you gotta walk the dog. I have to
Okay.
walk the dog. So I have to
You
walk
having
the
fun
dog
with it?
first. That's why I was late. Okay, I'm gonna fight over walking the dog.
I saw your selfies today. I missed it. I couldn't make it. All day. We had a very long service.
so much the wine stocks, so it's ales from the wine and coffee, left in there.
It's very
And
nice.
very nice, it was just unbelievable how much food. There was so much food, I'm so full.
An extra copy here. I have one copy.
What did
Okay.
you eat?
Anyone need a copy? I have an extra
They
copy.
make this very good vegetarian choice. Gail
have one.
Bird.
Oh, okay.
Alan made this English chicken dish. He was 800 years ago. So if you get the recipe, you call like the ingredients that were in it. And you knew right.
When I saw you,
Salad.
when I saw you, you had already been relaxed.
Yeah, so I
Right.
knew I had like 9 minutes or so. Emotional thing. I
No.
mean, at the end.
No, when I saw you the first time, when I saw you
No,
there.
no, no, we hadn't done it.
Oh,
We were just leaving it.
you were just taking out. You were just
Yeah,
hanging out.
it was
That's
so-
wonderful.
So it was nice to relax. Kale salad. Good movie. It just went on. This is delicious. Oh, it's pumpkin. And it's in a pie shape, so it's like a anyway, it's not the pie, pumpkin pie kind of thing, but not a dessert. I mean, and then of course we had desserts. I didn't eat those. I ate it. It's like a pumpkin cake that's shaped like a pie. That's delicious.
Oh, that was before. It's flyer. I remember getting it before.
I know you were, and you're like, your eye go like that.
Westward, you walk down the stairs. And you heard the sound. But you're not making a huge comeback.
That one's really hard to put. Because you need a bump shoe on it. I did not have a bump shoe on it. Here's a chair.
This is what I have to have. Christmas Eve, happy anniversary.
Oh, yes.
In
Ladino.
Did they sing it?
Yeah. Do you understand this?
Yeah.
We eat pastelicos. I don't know what those are, but.
Yeah.
Since it's 4:49, they'll make $5 5:31.
Kyle? I don't know if you heard that or not, but he said I was looking for which tea I wanted. Decided for this one.
I mean.
What do you think?
Oh,
It's
that
Christmas
is
Eve tea, and it's Christmas
right.
Eve.
It's hysterical.
You have to what?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's caffeine free. Oh, well, that'll be fine. I see that Christmas Eve, it's just, you gotta do it.
You've got to do it.
Get tea.
That is so funny.
I didn't know which one. You see that one, I mean, if ever, if ever. But tonight's the night. There's an old joke about that, but I won't repeat that one here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's some that always do, or that do very nice.
I could repeat it to you when we walk home, but
Yeah,
because it's not.
Marshall took his Marshall's nice enough. I didn't know if you were coming, so
You did what?
Marshall's nice enough to also volunteer to walk around. So.
Okay. Come together right now.
I think it depends on.
Not only my thing anyway. I don't really like Chinese food anyway, so it made it kind of moot point.
So we're actually going to be doing it the other way here.
Oh.
Yes.
Ooh,
So
she's talking.
Yeah,
Shouldn't
yeah.
Interrupt.
we
but-
had a question about the order of Havdalah and the Chanukiah candles.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked. So Sephardi and Ashkenazi do not agree. At all about this. But Ashkenazi practice, generally speaking, is that in the home, you would do Havdalah first, and then you would do the Hanukkah candle, because Shabbat happens more regularly than Hanukkah, and therefore we do Havdalah first. But here in the synagogue, we will do lighting of the Hanukkah candles first, and then Havdalah. I don't know who asked the question.
But why is that? Why is that?
Oh, because you have a limited time in which you can do, you must light the Hanukkah. So this is the 7th night of Hanukkah, and you've got to light your Rolvi, but you have to light on the 7th night. But Havdalah you could do till Tuesday. And Havdalah you've already said in the liturgy. So there's a limited time you're supposed to be rushing to actually light the synagogue, and you should actually have the light. So there's this tension going on of the time-bound nature of the lighting of the Hanukkah.
It's the same also like at home, you would do a valid Mari, when you show you Mari above that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Natan Rosenbaum gave me the answer about why there was a difference between being in the synagogue and being at home. He said there was a difference, but he couldn't explain why.
Yes.
I'm very glad that you were able to explain that way, because that makes sense, because you're at the synagogue, there's greater time constriction, and you have to do it.
And you have to do the Hanukkah candles, and then you could theoretically do a Havdalah. So their last time out within like the day, but Havdalah has a longer window. So you could keep doing Havdalah theoretically for even more days, and you've also already done Havdalah in your frame. So you theoretically taken care of it. Correct.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think with that, we can get started while you continue to eat. So we're going to begin, if you have the source sheet on the top. We did get La Sok B'divrei Torah blessing earlier, but as I believe more people have entered since then, we will do it again to the tune that I like. So when I get... Oh, yes. So we're going to start with the blessing for learning Torah, which is at the top of the source sheet, and I will start a tune with some 999s, and you can join in with me in the singing of La Sok B'divrei Torah. 99999 99999 99999 99999 99999 Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav etzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah לעסוק בדברי תורה, הפוך בה והפוך בה, לעסוק בדברי תורה. ני 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 ני, ני 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 ני, ני 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 ני, ני 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 ני. Okay, so we begin with Vayigash, which we heard Marshall chanting beautifully earlier. And just to give a little context before we jump into the verses that I want to, or the verse I want to focus on, Vayigash starts in Genesis 44, verse 18, with Vayigash elav Yehuda. So Yehuda, Judah, is going to Yosef and not knowing that Yosef is Yosef, still seeing him as this big guy in the house of Paro. So he gives a speech, and it goes from verse 18 through verse 34 in Genesis and Breshit 44. And it's for those familiar with the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, which I will be quoting a little bit throughout this because, like others here at Beth Am, it's a big favorite of mine. So this is the speech. If you're familiar with the musical, this is the "Oh no, not he" speech. And the song goes on, "Oh no, not he, how you can accuse him is a mystery, save him, take me, Benjamin is straighter than the tall palm tree." And for all the droshing that Andrew Lloyd Webber does in the musical, these lines he gets pretty accurate, because what's happening in this speech is that Yehuda is saying to Yosef, please take me instead of Binyamin as a prisoner. And in those verses, the big thing that he's focusing on is how heartbreaking it will be for his father, which he still doesn't know it's also Yosef's father. During those verses, he says a derivation of the word father 14 times. He says Av, Aviv, Avinu, Avi, all kinds of derivations of the word father. So what comes next, which we'll read in the first 4 verses of Breshit 45, is that Yosef, something happens to Yosef in hearing this speech of Yehuda. And he can no longer, as the English translation says, he can no longer control himself, and he has to reveal who he is to his brothers at that point. And it could be that those hearing about his father so many times is just like, he's so emotional at this point. He's thinking of his father Yaakov. It could be that seeing Yehuda, seeing one of his brothers being willing to think of how his father will feel and how his brother will feel, and being willing to sacrifice himself in place of his brother and for the feelings of his father could have moved him. So there's all kinds of reasons why we might think that this is the moment where Yosef says, okay, I have to reveal who I am. And then we get these verses. So I would love maybe if someone wants to read the 4 verses from Breshit, Genesis 45 in English, and then we'll focus in on verse 3 in Hebrew. But does someone want to read for us the 4 verses in English? Great, thank you. And if you're comfortable to, as many of you know here, if you're comfortable to pass the mic for the people on Zoom, those who are comfortable, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. 45:1, Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants, and he cried out, "Have everyone withdraw from me." So there was no one else about when Joseph made himself known to his brothers. His sobs were so loud that the Egyptians could hear, and so the news reached Pharaoh's palace. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still well?" But his brothers could not answer him, so dumbfounded were they on account of him. Then Joseph said to his brothers, come forward to me. And when they came forward, he said, I am your brother Joseph, he whom you sold into Egypt.
Thank you so much. So we'll see from that translation, just I didn't put the parsha is Vayigash, which comes from the first verse that we were looking at in the beginning of Yehuda's speech, Vayigash, Elav Yehuda. We get Vayigash again in the 4th verse, but I put, again, it's another lyric from the musical, Joseph, Joseph, is it really you? In Andrew Lloyd Webber's Imaginings, this is what the brothers are thinking. Of course, we see in the verse when he says who he is, they are not able to say anything in that moment. I don't know. Oh, that's really beautiful. That's really beautiful. The rabbi said or the Pope said? The Pope said. So just to repeat. The Pope said. Okay. John Paul. Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, thank you so much. Just to repeat for the people on Zoom and that are listening, I just learned, I didn't know that, so thank you for sharing that, Pope John Paul introduced himself to a rabbi. He visited a synagogue in Rome and introduced himself to the rabbi as, I am Joseph, to say, I am your brother. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. Thank you. So with that, we are going to dive into a little bit of trying to understand what's going on, both from the perspective of Yosef in this verse and also what's going on with his brothers, what's their perspective. So in the 3rd verse, we have the Hebrew, Vayomer Yosef el Echav, Ani Yosef, ha'od avi chai, ve'lo yachlu Echav la'anot oto, ki nivhalu mipanav. So we had our translation here in English is the JPS translation, and I wanted to look at a few other potential ways to translate in English this verse. I've highlighted the first part about Ani Yosef ha'od avichai, but we are going to look at both parts of the verse. I just wanted to start with focusing on what Yosef says when he first reveals himself, and also the next verse that says, where he says, Ani Yosef achichem asher mechartem oti mitzrayma, I am your brother Yosef, who you sold to Egypt. That's what I might have thought would have been the first thing he said. But actually, before he says that, the first thing he says after he says Ani Yosef is Ha'od Avichai. So let's look at some of these English translations. Can I get, would someone be like, someone be willing to read the various English translations we have that have a little bit of a difference between Ha'od Avichai and the Nivhalu Mipanav? Oh, I think, yeah.
The first
Okay,
translation is by Everett Fox. Then Yosef said to his brothers, I am Yosef. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were not able to answer him, for they were confounded in his presence. Alters says, and Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed before him. The Common English Bible says, Joseph said to his brothers, I'm Joseph. Is my father really still alive? His brothers couldn't respond because they were terrified before him. The New JPS. Joseph said to his brother, I am Joseph. Is my father still well? But his brothers could not answer him, so dumbfounded they were on account of him. And Spicer writes, Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still in good health? But his brothers were unable to reply, so dumbfounded were they at him.
Thank you. So I brought a couple commentaries, but before we look at the commentaries, I wanted to hear from you all 2 questions that I have. So the first question is based on those translations. I'm curious, based on we've been going through this yet again this year, this Yosef story, all the last couple of weeks. And based on what we know of Yosef from the last couple of weeks of Parshas and from what we've learned previously about Yosef, which of the translations do you think works best? And I also want you to think about in terms of, is Yosef asking about, is his ha'od avichai, is that like, is he physically okay? Is questions about his spirituality, or like, is he spiritually okay, mentally, emotionally? What is he getting at with this question? Is it like the literal, is my father alive, or is something else going on? So I have a list on in the questions section about how you personally would translate the words ha'od avichai based on what we were just looking at, or maybe something else. A, is my father still well? B, is my father still alive? C, is my father still really alive? D, is father still in good health? E, all of the above. Maybe you think they're all different sides of the same coin, or you have some other reason that they all work. Or F, none of the above. And maybe you think none of these translations are getting at what Yosef's trying to get at, and maybe you have a different translation you might want to offer. So we could take a poll, or we could hear a couple comments and then maybe take a poll after.
Was mourning all alone
Mm-hmm.
for Joseph. He never stopped mourning
Mm-hmm.
all these years. How many years was it? 20?
It says somewhere, actually, maybe something like that. I don't remember
He was
exactly.
mourning all alone.
Yeah. At this point, I think it also says, I don't remember these. I don't remember how old he is.
Joseph
Do you
is
remember?
30 when he stands before Pharaoh, and then there's 7 years of plenty. So we're already into the second year of the famine, right? So he's like 38, and it says, and then I guess the question is
How old is Yaakov? Yeah.
So yeah, when Joseph is born, how old is he?
I don't remember, but he's definitely,
You know,
time has significant amount of time has passed for sure.
I mean, he spends 20 years with Lavan, so he's got to be born.
We're trying to calculate how old Yaakov might be at this time. Old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He keeps talking about, I'm gonna be going.
Right. Right.
But I was just trying to, I was just trying to get some sense when because it all gets into, you told me he's alive, but like, what's his speed of being?
Right.
So that's what I
Right.
was trying to get.
Right. Thank you. So just to repeat for those who are listening, a couple of the things we're talking about is how much time has passed since this happened, how old is Yaakov, and is he talking about, what is Yaakov's state of being? So these are definitely things that I think about as well in this moment. Did I see one other hand before we take yeah? Yeah, yeah.
Seeing them for the first time, and his father's old, like, I think it's shocking.
Yeah. But the part that concerns me with that, and because Judah has already been telling him that the stories about his father is alive, and then he comes back and asks this question. It's always troubled me.
Yeah.
Because it didn't seem to make sense to me,
Right.
and that because of that, because he's being told he's alive, unless he thinks that his brothers are lying to him.
Well, he doesn't have a whole lot of reasons to trust him, does he?
Right. So just to repeat, thank you so much for those who are listening. Just to repeat, that we're talking about whether the pshat, the literalist, simplest, straightforward meaning of "is my father actually alive?" seems to be speaking to some of us here, and then the question is, but does that make sense because of all the verses where Yehuda is talking about their father? And then the question to that is, but does Yosef really have the ability yet to trust his brothers? Yeah.
I also want to add something similar, that I think kind of the question that he's asking is a very emotional question, that it's not supposed to be eloquent or anything. It's just how is he? Is he doing okay?
Mhm.
And I know that, like, I was reading something online about how there's like what's the term for like a story? There's a midrash
Yeah.
about how Joseph was like constantly thinking about his father and like had visions of his father. And kind of that really connects with the idea of like Joseph wanting to know if not just is he well, but more specifically, is he alive?
Yeah.
Um,
So the
To-
literal,
to
is he
res-
alive?
Yeah, to
Yeah.
respond to that one point, there's a famous when he is about to be seduced by Potiphar's wife. He sees the face of his father, and that prevents him
Oh,
from
wow.
succumbing to her temptations.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you.
So
So,
funny, I grew up in Israel, and all we did is like reading the Torah, but that's it. We didn't need too much stress. While I'm out of Israel for a million years,
yeah.
everybody is really analyzing with million rabbi talking about and everything. It's amazing. I
Yeah.
feel like I do not know anything.
There's also like, there are so many variations just for the word father.
Yeah.
You know, father is one thing in contemporary conversational Hebrew.
Right.
So something totally different when you're reading the Torah.
Right.
It has variations.
Yeah.
That right there is.
Yeah, thank you. And we are going to look at that really shortly, the how of and avi is used in modern Hebrew and biblical Hebrew. And I love that. Thank you for noticing that we definitely love to like take one word and dive deep into what does it mean. I'll take Stevie's comment, and then we will take a poll. Oh, and then also Marshall's, and then we'll take a poll on this, and then we'll look at some commentaries as well. So yeah, would yeah, you want to pass it? Is that okay? Then never mind. Just kidding.
Even before this, the conversation that, Judah is saying is that, right, if we leave without Benjamin, our father will die.
Right.
And so,
Right.
on some level, Joseph's saying like, have I saved him?
Mm.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So the question of if Yosef is asking, have I saved our father here? That's an interesting one. Thank you. Yeah.
This is sort of a musical question for you
Yeah.
and for Rabbi Chorny.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have in the text, I'll sing the text as I can, I think I know what's happening in it. So here's the text as I read it. Vayomer Yosef el Echav ane Yosef ha'od avi chai velo yachlu Echav la'not oto ki niphalu mipanav.
Mm.
So the question is the following,
Mm-hmm.
where he said, Ani Yosef,
Mhm.
we have the trope symbol of a katon.
Mm-hmm.
And do I understand correctly that a katon is less of a stop, less of a pause than a etnachta? So I think something's
Yeah.
happening here in the text.
Right.
He says, Ani Yosef, his brothers are,
Right.
what happens at the end of the sentence?
Right.
Nifhalu, they were confounded or
Right.
dismayed.
Exactly.
And then he says, is my father still alive?
Yeah.
They haven't recovered yet from
Right.
what's happening.
Right. Thank you. I think actually, instead of taking a poll, I think you can all reflect on which translation you like. And I think I want to take that to move us to the next question, which is one of the parts of that question that I'm asking is whether you think those two parts, Ani Yosef and Ha'od Avichai, are one thought, or whether it's two separate thoughts. If he's saying Ani Yosef, and then he pauses for reaction, but the brothers aren't doing anything because they're in such shock. And then he says, Ha'od Avichai is the next thought. Or is it this connection, like you're pointing to the trope? And I love looking at the trope for clues. That's another way, looking at the trope for clues of how to understand it. I love doing that. And I think there is something there that he can't, maybe Yosef can't even wait for the brothers' reaction. Maybe he's just like, Ani Yosef Ha'od Avichai, like he has to get those words out. That's like what is on his mind. So thank you. And then just a few more parts of the question that you can reflect on before And then we're just going to move into the commentary. So the question just that's connected to that is, before we look at the commentary, why do you think that these three words are the first words Yosef says after revealing who he is to his brothers? And this question of, are these three words part of revealing who he is to his brothers, or are they separate, the next thought? And what do you think might be behind these words? But I think we have been starting to unpack that, and I'm grateful for what we've been sharing so far. So I think I want us to move to see what Robert Alter says, and then we're going to look at the Kli Yakar, and they both look at this first part of Yosef's perspective, and then we'll take a little bit of time to look at the brother's perspective. So does someone want to read the Robert Alter commentary on Ani Yosef Ha'od Avichai? Would you like to? Okay, great. Can we pass the mic? Thank you.
I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? His very first utterance, after his sobs have subsided, is the essential revelation of identity, a two-word in the Hebrew, bombshell tossed at his brothers. He follows this by asking whether his father is still alive, as though he could not altogether trust the assurances they had given him about this when he questioned them in the guise of the Egyptian viceroy.
Mhm.
His repeated reference to my father serves double duty. The first person singular possessive expresses his sense of personal connection with old Jacob. He is, after all, my father, he is saying to his brothers. But it is also the idiomatic usage for the familiar father in biblical Hebrew, like Abba in Aramaic and later Hebrew.
Thank you. So first we get Robert Alter is backing up this question that came up in our discussion about whether Yosef can trust the assurances that they had given him when he's questioning them as the Egyptian viceroy. Are his brothers trustworthy is something coming up in the altar as well, so thank you. And then the question about the language, about Avi, that was brought up about how we look at in the biblical Hebrew or modern Hebrew, that Alter is saying that there is an idiomatic usage for the familiar father in biblical Hebrew. When you say Avi, it could be something similar to Abba. And in fact, one of the translations, I think the Spicer translation, translates it as not is my father still in good health, but is father still in good health with a capital F. So there's a couple different ways to understand this according to the altar, and I think we were touching on that in our conversation. So I also want us to look at the Kli Yakar, who is, his name was Shlomo Ephraim ben Aaron Lunshitz, and he lived in Prague from 1550 to 1619. And so that's, I just put another, again, that same verse we're focusing on, which has another slightly pretty similar but slightly different translation that says, and Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph, is my father still alive? But his brothers could not answer him because they were startled by his presence. So can I get someone to read number 1 under the is my father still alive Kli Yakar commentary? Oh, would you like one? Oh, oh, yeah, there's extras. Yeah, thank you. Would you be okay with the mic or? Oh, it's on where it says the Kli Yakar, and then it's 3:1. Oh, thank you. Are you okay with the mic? Thank you. Can we?
Is my father
Oh,
still
wait,
alive?
before you start, are you okay to use the mic?
Even though the brothers already told him that he was alive, as was understood from all. Even though the brothers already told him that he was alive, as was understood from all of Judah's words, nevertheless, Joseph thought that perhaps they spoke thus so that he would take pity on the old man and not cause his death. Therefore, he asked at once again, is my father still alive?
Thank you.
It
Oh,
seems logical that one reason we repeat ourselves is for emphasis because we think the first time around people didn't really pay attention, therefore we repeat ourselves. That seems logical.
right. And also maybe so this is like another version. It's another version of Joseph's perspective. Not that necessarily he didn't trust his brothers, but in this Kli Yakar explanation, it's maybe that there was a reason that Yehuda was saying, bringing up their father so many times in that speech, he was maybe wanting him to take pity on him. And so maybe he's asking again, like, are we really sure? Ha'od avichai. It's like a different, it's a different side of the same coin of Joseph's perspective. And then the next comment shifts us from focusing on the perspective of Yosef to what's going on in the perspective of the brothers. So would someone be willing to read that number 2 on the brothers' perspective? Or yeah, or you can continue reading. Thank you.
Okay. But they did not perceive it thus, and thought that he, Joseph, didn't intend to ask if he was alive or not, but rather to remind them of their sin. Therefore, he said, "Is my father still alive?" Meaning that he, Jacob, was his father, not your father, because they did not take pity on his suffering as if he were not your father. They were therefore startled and unable to utter a word.
Thank you.
Yes, it's common when you're startled, you
so-
can't speak a word.
right.
You're sitting there, yeah.
Thank you.
that's common.
So if we're to understand the Ha'od Avichai as is my father still alive, it's a question of, is this to say that Yosef is trying to say to the brothers, is my father still alive? Sort of to like harken back to the Seder language, my father, not your father, not our father, my father, because he's saying, maybe the brothers felt like he's saying, when you sold me into slavery, you weren't thinking about how this would affect our father. And we saw how hard Yaakov took it. So maybe Yosef is saying, you know, you might be thinking of our father now, but you certainly weren't thinking of our father then. So he's really my father because I always thought about him. Maybe that's what the brothers perceived was happening with the Ha'od Avichai. Maybe that's a Kliakar take on it. And then Rashi sort of is in a similar vein that just I'll read quickly the Nivhalu mipanav. Rashi says mipnei habusha. They were ashamed. They were embarrassed. Maybe this did remind them. And what's funny to me is when you look at the next verse, verse 4, where Yosef says, Ani Yosef achichem asher mechartem oti mitzrayma. I'm your brother Yosef who you sold to Egypt. You would think that would be more of the like, that's the direct, that's the literal, the shot. Like, this is, I'm Yosef and here's what you did to me. This is a more subtle opening, and yet the brothers are so, they're, whether, however you want to translate it, they're shocked, they're dumbfounded, they're startled that the brothers don't speak to Yosef until verse 15. Yosef, like, when they don't say anything, then he speaks more, and then in verse 14 he hugs and cries with Binyamin, and then in verse 15 I believe he kisses the brothers, and then they're able to speak. And we don't get in the text what they say to him, but we do get that they are finally able to speak to him at that point. So there's just a few questions on the back with another little picture of the brothers from the Joseph musical. Just a few questions for reflection, and also if anyone on the Zoom wants to share any reactions, I'm just going to take us through these 3 questions, and maybe this is something we can reflect moving into the next week as we sit with the Parashat Vayigash. So my first question is whether the commentaries of Robert Alter and Kliakar that we looked at alter your understanding of the 3 words that Yosef uses after revealing who he is to his brothers, Ha'od Avichai. Or does it reinforce what we were thinking initially? And I heard a lot of what our initial thinking was in line with what they were saying. And I'm curious, maybe something to reflect on this week, of why you would think now that these are the first 3 words that immediately come after Yosef says the words Ani Yosef. So that's just a little bit of reflection on what's going on with Yosef, and a little bit of the reflection on what's going on with the brothers. What do we make of the words describing the brothers after Yosef's big reveal? Ve'lo yachlu echav la'anot oto ki nivhalu mipanav. His brothers could not answer him because they were startled by his presence. So just a little bit of, reflecting on that. We talked a little bit about how do Kliakar and Rashi help us understand this moment, and how you might describe this moment for the brothers and for Yosef, and that it takes a lot more verses and the hugging and the crying and the kissing before they can actually speak to one another, or before the brothers can then speak to Yosef now knowing who he is. And then a third question, this is really just for reflection, is how do the words that we use affect our own relationships, familial and otherwise? This question of him is he saying avi for a specific reason to really get at them, or is it a personal thing? Maybe it's a personal thing, but it maybe affected them in that way. And with the wisdom of the coming week's parasha, as distilled by the commentators and by us, how can we increase our mindfulness about the words we use in relationship to others and in describing our relationships to others? So, is there anyone on Zoom that wants to say something that didn't get a chance during the discussion? Any last comments in here? I think we can move to Mariv. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I'm just kidding. We're gonna do Birkat Hamazon. So if someone had bread that wants to lead, I will remind you before you volunteer to lead that we will be including. Oh,
Well, if you lead, you only have to lead us in the
oh, right.
ending invitational in the first paragraph.
Okay, so we don't have to do it all out loud. Okay.
Just need this reminder because there's a lot.
Okay, so. Okay, great, thank you. And a reminder for everybody, because we're gonna do most of it silently. So a reminder for everybody in the Birkat Hamazon to include the Yaleh Ve'avo for Rosh Chodesh and the Harachaman for Rosh Chodesh and the Al Hanisim for Hanukkah. And of course, the Ritzei for Shabbat. All of the paragraphs for a little bit longer. And just do all of it. Shiva Adonai, Shiva Tzion, Ayinu Kecholmi, Hazim Ales Vokinu, Ushonenu Rima, Az Yamru Vagoyim, Higil Adonai, Lasot Imele, Higil Adonai, Lasot Imanu, Ayinu Semechim.
Birshut harav v'kol mesupim kan nevarech Eloheinu shachanu mishelo. Baruch Eloheinu shachanu mishelo tuvach hayinu. Baruch Baruch Shemo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Hazan et haolam kulo b'tuvo b'chem b'chesed u'v'rachamim. Unoden lechem lechol basar ki le'olam chasto uv'tuvo hagadol tamid lo chasar lanu ve'ayachsar lanu mazon le'olam va'ed bavur shemo hagadol kiwel zanum varnes lakol Umetiv lakol umechin mazon lechol briyotav asher bara baruch atah Adonai hazan et hakol. All hanisim ve'al hapurkan ve'al hagvurot v'hagvurot Kavush matim echon ge'elu l'hodot l'halel b'shem ha'gadol ve'al ha'kol Adonai nemarim l'cholim v'tachim v'shem Baruch atah Adonai haaretz ve'hamazon. Ritzevach litzenu. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai boneh v'rachamav Yerushalayim. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai. Na'iti vegam zakanti v'lo ra'iti tzadik nezav v'zaro mevakesh lachem Adonai oz le'amo yitein Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom.
Okay, so we will begin Mariv. Yasher Koach on the benching. Mariv can be found on page 264 in the Lev Shalem, on page 281 in the Slim Shalom, and on page 200 in the Sim Shalom. והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, והרבה להשיב אפו ולא ירקול חמתו. אדוני הושיע מלך יעננו ויום קוראנו. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בדברו. ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב הרבים אהבת עולם בית ישראל. ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל Adonai Elohechem emet, ve'emunah kol zot v'kayam aleinu. We're in the middle of page 267 in Lev Shalem, 283 in Slim Shalom, and 204 in Sim Shalom. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא מלכותך ראו בניך בוקר ים לפני משה זה אלינו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום. צל כנפיך תסתירנו. ושמור צאתנו ואונו לחיים ולשלום מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני, שומר עמו ישראל לעד. ברוך אדוני לעולם, אמן ואמן. כי המלכות שלך היא, ולעולמי עד תמלוך בכבוד, כי אין לנו מלך אלא אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, המלך בכבודו תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ועל כל מעשיו. יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברי קריאתי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחייך בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמיון בעלמא ואמרו amen. The whispered Amidah is found on page 270 in Lev Shalem, 286 in Slim Shalom, 210 in Sim Shalom, and reminders to add Atah Chonantanu and the Yalev Yavo and Al Hanisim for Hanukkah. If you are still davening the silent Amidah, please continue to do so. We will continue with Chatzi Kaddish on page 279 in the Lev Shalem, 292 in the Slim Shalom, and 682 in the Sim Shalom. Yikadal v'yikadosh meraba, be'alma divra kirtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yamachon v'chei l'chol beit Yisrael, b'galal v'zman kari v'imru, amen. Yehi shmer b'mavorach le'olam omei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpar v'yisham mitnaseh, ve'yitadar v'yitala v'yitala shmei d'kudesha b'richu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tishbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Vihi noam Adonai Eloheinu aleinu, u'maaseh yadenu konena aleinu, u'maaseh yadenu konenehu, yoshev b'sater elyon b'tzel shaddai yitlonan. Omar Adonai machsi. יקראני בניהו, אמו אנוכי וצרה, אכלתהו ואכבדהו, אורך ימים אשביעהו, ואראהו בישועתי, אורך ימים אשביעהו, ואראהו בישועתי. We turn back to page 216 in the Lev Shalem. ובא לציון גואל. Oh, sorry. ואתה קדוש יושב תהילות ישראל, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלך הארץ כבודו. ותישאני רוח ואשמע אחרי כל רעש גדול, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ויפתחו בך ידי שמך, כי לא עזבת דורשך אדוני, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו, יגדיל תורה וידיר. We turn back to page 280 in the Lev Shalom, 294 in the Slim Shalom, and 688 in the Sim Shalom for the Kaddish Shalom. יגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה קריאותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחייכו בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה בריחו, לעילם מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תשבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. תתקבל צאתון ובאותון לכל ישראל, קודם אבוני וישמעיה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרב מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו אמן. 281 for עלינו. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובהי מרומים. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת יום והשבותה אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת. אין עוד, על כן נקבל אחד אדוני אלוהינו מיד. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, Ushemo, Ushemo, Ushemo Echad. Kaddish Yatom Mourner's Kaddish can be found on page 282 in the Lev Shalem, 298 in the Slim Shalom, and 698 in the Sim Shalom. Gadal Veit Kadash Shemei Rabbah. Be'alma Divra Kirute, Ve'amlich Malchute. Bechayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'gala ubizman kariv ve'imru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'me'olmaya. Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitpa'ar ve'yitromam ve'yitnaseh. Ve'yitadar ve'yitaleh ve'yitalal. Shmei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma ve'imru, Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel ve'imru, Amen. All right, so as Rabbi Cantor Chorny discussed, normally we would be doing Havdalah here, but first we are going to do the Chanukiah lighting. And in your song sheet packets, you can see on the first page we have the blessings, and we'll be singing Hanerot Halalu, not in the English, but in Hebrew, and Ma'otzur, one, if not two of the verses of Ma'otzur. And then we will move on to Havdalah. So let's see. I'll shift this a little bit this way and move over here. Okay. Okay. We can also sing that as well.
Candles lighting, candles lighting, please.
Yeah. No Hanukkah song.
Maybe, oh, it's in there.
The Hanukkah song by Adam Sandler, that's another one.
Let's see, maybe I'll.
May I light one of the candles because I really missed it yesterday?
Sure, you want to you can do the lighting. Sure.
Yeah, everybody could light one. That's what they did in the Grove.
Oh, yeah? Here, let's see. Yeah, you can be the lighter on behalf of us, but let's, okay. Oh, wait, we'll do the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavotenu bayamim ahem ba'azman hazeh. It's starting here, yeah. Hanerot halalu anachnu madlikin al hanisim ve'al haniflaot ve'al hateshuot ve'al hamilchamot she'asita lavotenu bayamim hahem bazman hazeh al yedei kohanecha Kohanecha hakedoshim ve'ein lanu reshut lehishtamesh bahem ela lirotam bilvad כדי להודות ולהלל לשמך הגדול, על ניסיך ועל נפלאותיך ועל ישועתך. Mouths on page 2. מעצור ישועתי, לך נאה לשבח, תיכון בית תפילתי, ושם תודה נזבח, לתכין מטבח, מצר המנבח, אז אגמור בשיר מזמור, חנוכת המזבח, אז אגמור בשיר מזמור, חנוכת המזבח. Let's skip to the verse at the bottom of page 2 that starts with Yevanim. Yevanim nikbetzu alai, azai bimei chashmanim, ופרצו חומות מגדלי, וטימו כל השמנים, ומנותר קנקנים, נשא נס לשושנים, בני בינה ימי שמונה, קבו שיר ורננים, בני בינה ימי שמונה, קבו שיר ורננים.
We have a different way
Oh.
of singing it
Oh,
in
yeah?
Israel.
Yeah.
מעצור ישועתי, לך נאה לשבח. I mean, the whole songs are with a lot of energy. And
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that energy to us.
Thank you for letting me light the candle. You saved my life this year.
You like the what?
This is a different Englishman's translation
Oh.
than what we grew up with.
Oh, yeah?
Right.
At VJCC.
Oh, yeah.
It's photocopied from the Art Scroll.
Do we want, yeah? We could do one more Hanukkah song, or we could move to Havdalah. Oh, Ocho Candelicas? Let's do that. Okay, on the back on page 8. On the back on page 8, we're gonna sing Ocho Candelicas. All right. Hanukkah linda está aquí, ocho candelas para mí. Hanukkah linda está aquí, ocho candelas para mí. Oh, una candelica, dos candelicas, tres candelicas, cuatro candelicas, cinco candelicas, seis candelicas, siete candelicas, ocho candelas para mí. Muchas fiestas voy a fazer con alegrías y placer. Muchas fiestas voy a fazer con alegrías y placer. Oh, una candelica, dos candelicas, tres candelicas, cuatro candelicas, cinco candelicas, seis candelicas, siete candelicas, ocho candelas para mí. Los pastelicos voy a comer con almendricas y la miel. Los pastelicos voy a comer con almendricas y la miel. Oh, una candelica, dos candelicas, tres candelicas, cuatro candelicas, cinco candelicas, seis candelicas, siete candelicas, ocho candelas para mí. Thank you. That's I believe that's Ladino. Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
Ladino. Yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you. All right, so we will now move to Havdalah. Now that we've brought in Hanukkah.
You gotta include Hanukkah and Santa Monica.
Oh, yeah. Oh, should we sing that too?
Yeah.
Next time.
Next time, yeah, we'll do it next time. Okay, so we have,
If you light the light, I can turn off the overhead.
oh, great. We have have Havdalah on page 283. While we're lighting the light and turning off the overhead, you can turn to Havdalah on page 283.
Yeah, you can use the Shema. Yeah, you don't need to, you don't need to use another minute.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, remember we did that last night to light
No,
the
we
Shabbat
cannot
candle.
use the candles of Hanukkah.
It's just a little hard to get it in and out.
Oh, you
No,
can
but-
use the Shema.
You can use the Shema.
How's it go?
A loophole.
Well, that's what it's there for.
The fast one?
It's not perfect.
Okay. We want to start.
Oh, Elohim.
I'm afraid I'm gonna burn myself.
Put it
Put it
I can
down.
hold it.
Okay.
You want to hold the one of these?
All the spices.
Okay, oh, then you can pass it louder.
Illuminate.
Great. All right.
Oh, uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hine el Yeshuati, eftach velo efchad, ki aziv zimrad yavai, hili lishua, ushaftamayim besason, mimanei ha-Yeshua, l'Adonai ha-Yeshua, alam chavir chatechasela, Adonai Tzevaot imanu miskav lanu Elohei Yaakov Sela Adonai Tzevaot Ashrei Adam Boteach Bach Adonai Hoshia Hamelech Yaneinu V'Yom Korenu La Yehudim Haita Ora Vesimcha Vesason Vikar Kentielanu Kos Yeshuot Esa Uveshem Adonai Ekra Yananai Nai 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 Yananai Nai 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 Yai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam, borei peri hagafen, borei peri hagafen, yananai, yanai, nanai, 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 yanai, nanai, 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 yanai, nanai, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim borei minei v'samim yananai ba na 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 ya na 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 ya na ya na 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh borei meorei ha'esh yananai yanai na 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 yanai na 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 yananai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol ben or lechol ben Yisrael le'amim ben yom hashvi'i l'sheshet yamei hama aseh. Baruch atah Adonai, hamavdil ben kodesh lechol. Yananai, Shavua tov, 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 Shavua tov. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi, Bimhera veyamenu, Yavo Eleinu, Imashiach ben David, Imashiach ben David, Hamavdil ben Kodesh lecho, Chaterteinu imcho, Zarenu v'chasbenu yarbe yarbe kacho v'kakochavim balayla. Zarenu v'chasbenu yarbe yarbe kacho v'kakochavim balayla. Shavua tov and happy Hanukkah.
Shavua Tov.
Yeah. Shavua tov and Chodesh tov and happy Hanukkah still.
So when there's a 29-day month, you have a 1-day Rosh Hashanah. When it's a 30-day month, you have 2 days Rosh Hashanah. Okay.
Yeah. Same with Monday as well, because that's when it is
Legally observed.
legal holiday, legally observed. Monday is at 8.
Oh, that's, yeah, that is a.
That is correct.
Hanukkah cookies to cook.
Hanukkah cookies to cook.
Somebody gave me,
Cook those cookies.
somebody gave me this little kit. It's from Manischewitz. You make ugly sweater cookies.
So when you ask the
Wow,
question,
ugly sweater.
which
Yes.
translation does one prefer, I always come down on Robert